Nigerian animator Ridwan Moshad was so determined to learn how to make cartoons that he spent hours in internet cafes in Lagos watching YouTube lessons and taking notes. He says, I would go over to a cyber cafe, watch video tutorials, and write down whatever I'd learned. Today, the 26-year-old is a rising star in Africa's blossoming animation scene. 2 years ago, he was recognized by the Cartoons Network Africa Creative Lab for his animation Garbage Toy and Trash Can. And what must have felt like sweet revenge, his cartoon was inspired by a bad experience in high school involving a rubbish bin and school bullies. Garbage Boy is basically me, he says. I was bullied and called names. I decided to create Garbage Boy as a beacon of hope and forgiveness and to show others who have been bullied that those names don't define who you are. He has since formed the production company and he's now hoping to have his latest idea, a cartoon set in Lagos called In My Hood, commissioned into a series. He's self-taught, surprisingly, and Ridwan Moshad's journey into animation is not particularly unique. All over the continent, we hear these stories, says Nick Wilson, the founder of the African Animation Network, who is based in Johannesburg. He reels off a list of countries where local animators are starting to make their marks, such as Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Egypt, South Africa, Mozambique, and Burkina Faso. Whenever we've been able to scratch the surface and connect the community, we've found pretty exceptional talent, and the majority of this talent is self-taught. But while stories of self-taught animators breaking into the industry are inspiring, more formal training opportunities do need to be developed, he says. Dode Dega is a Cameroonian animator who lives in Burkina Faso, and he's responsible for skills and development at the African Animations Network. He says, my experience in this industry shows me there exists an immense pool of young, talented, and creative minds that never get to see the day. The only problem keeping Africa behind is a lack of training. Recently, partnerships have been announced with international animation studios Toons Media Group and Baboon Animation. Both companies plan to establish animation academies in Africa, adding to the handful that exists already. With Pan-African production, despite the scarcity of formal training opportunities, locally made productions are already starting to take off. Chris Morgan and Fundu Films was able to draw on a Pan-African talent pool for his recent production, My Better World. The educational series aimed at African school children and young teenagers involved a team of creatives working remotely across the continent. We had over 100 producers working in 7 different countries, and this was pre-COVID, he says. The end result is a series made up of 55 short animated films that are available in English, Swahili, Hausa, and Somali. Each episode, the characters navigate complex situations such as negotiations about early marriage, but in a lively and accessible way. As well as a cartoon, each film features an interview with a real-life high achiever such as Africa's first female pilot. When it was broadcast in Kenya earlier this year, My Better World quickly became the top ratings children's TV show. It was also nominated for this year's NSC International Animation Film Festival, one of the world's top animation competitions. But not all African animation work is aimed at the young. Nairobi-based artist and animator Nengo Muki uses the medium to tell stories that are challenging and at times confronting. Her most famous film, Yellow Fever, tackles the use of whitening creams by African women. She says, I wanted to look at the way women are using skin bleaching products in Kenya and what we believe is beautiful, to know why. Animation allows people to have an anonymity and a distance between what they say and how others perceive it. It allows people to not feel necessarily attacked by what you're discussing so they can maybe engage with it a bit better. Her work has received numerous international awards, including the Best Animated Short at the Chicago International Film Festival for Yellow Fever in 2013. COVID boosts demand as more African animators win professional acclaim. International studios are taking notice. Last year, Netflix acquired its first African animation, Mama K's Team 4, a cartoon about 4 teenage girls set in Lusaka, Zambia. At the same time, foreign companies such as Pixar are hiring Africa-based animators to carry out production services for their films. Great news. In fact, the global market for animated content is booming, according to Rob Salkowitz, a Hollywood and entertainment reporter at Forbes. There's an incredible demand for animated content right now. This was true even before the pandemic because the streaming networks are really hungry for new content, and animation is a great way to get viewers. But while more animators are joining the profession in Africa, many are facing an obstacle to get their content on local screens. It's cheaper for broadcasters to import ready-made shows from abroad than fund original productions. The African Animation Network hopes to overcome the problems that by launching its own TV network if it can attract enough investment. Broadcasters are now incentivized to invest in the local industry because they can turn a profit on a really cheap foreign content, he says. The channel is currently in a pilot phase and is set to launch in the next few months. We're on that precipice of being potentially a thriving and sustainable industry, says Nick Wilson.